When I started my FIRE journey way back in 2016, I honestly thought I knew everything there was to know about money. And I had read a few books, watched some YouTube videos, and felt like I was all set. But I was wrong. It was not the knowledge I picked up that made me a seven-figure investor. It was the habits I developed over the last 10 years. And if you don't lock down these healthy, repeatable habits, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle with your finances. Trust me, I know this firsthand. My first marriage did not make it. And a huge chunk of that was because we never communicated and we were never on the same page when it came to money. It was a constant source of tension. Now, my second marriage, it's a completely different story. We're in a lockstep financially, and we even have a healthy little competition going on over whose Roth IRA is going to grow more in 2025, and it keeps things interesting. And since it's Christmas Eve, let me know in the comments below if you know which movie this sweater is from, and because you know this is the real Christmas movie. Anyway, here are the 6 habits that helped me achieve 7 figures in investments fast. So when I was staring down the barrel of over $110,000 in consumer debt, my budget was surgical. I paid the bills, and then every single extra penny went straight to the debt. That's it. It was a grueling 2 years, but I paid it all off. And once that battle was finally over, I thought the hard part was behind me. But I quickly realized I had a whole new challenge waiting for me. While transitioning from debt payoff to my FIRE journey in 2016, I was still stuck in an old mindset. Pay the bills, and then I would save whatever was left for my emergency fund. My initial savings rate was 15% because it took me about 7 months to save 6 months of expenses. But that guaranteed that I would never go back into debt ever again because I had the cash reserve. But by July 2016, I completely changed my investing mindset. I had a fully funded emergency fund, so I flipped the script to spend what was left after saving and investing. And I initially started with a 25% savings rate going into my retirement, and that's where the magic really starts to happen. Which brings to mind that famous quote from Warren Buffett: "Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving." Now, I am not suggesting you try to live on ramen noodles and save 100% of your income. Come on, we're all adults here, right? You have bills to pay, but I am urging you to prioritize your investments before you even think about discretionary expenses like that new set of golf clubs or a fancier truck that's gonna cost you $1,300 a month. And once you set those priorities straight, the next question becomes, how do you actually stick to them every single month? The trick to making this work is automation. I've always automatically scheduled my 401k contributions every 2 weeks. My HSA contributions, same thing, every 2 weeks. My Roth IRA, I max that sucker out on January 1st or 2nd of every single year, just to get that money working for me immediately. My taxable brokerage account gets a weekly cash injection. Plus, I automatically dump money into my separate funds for travel and other big goals every single week. And right there was when I achieved my first 50% savings rate. That's right. I was saving half of my income and spending half of my income by being very frugal, even with my 2-year-old daughter at the time. And I can tell you that my strategy really paid off in the long run. Now, by automating all of this, I can simply invest and forget that the money even exists in my checking account. And that's the key psychological trick. Because man, when I used to see those big dollar amounts sitting there, my brain just assumed, hey, that's available cash for spending in my checking account. But once I stopped letting my impulses make the decisions and put the system in charge instead, everything just changed. Automation keeps me on an intentional budget, and it's not tight, but it's very deliberate. Speaking of those accounts, if you haven't checked out my other videos on the Roth IRA after 10 years of maxing out or the HSA after 5 years of maxing out, you need to. They could be extremely beneficial to your own plan. And once you understand how powerful those accounts can be, the next step is making sure your day-to-day decisions actually support them. And I'm talking about the second non-negotiable habit my wife and I have, which is a monthly financial plan. And we called it our family financial meeting. And it happens on the last weekend of every month. And we set aside 1 hour when the rest of the house is quiet and everyone else has gone to bed. And look, financial planning does not need to be some complicated suit and tie affair in your household. It's really just a conversation about two things: how much we expect to bring in and how much we plan to spend in the upcoming months. So for example, right now, as December is winding down, we're talking about our spending for January 2026. And we pull up the calendar and we get specifics. And we look at which weekends we're gonna go out and spend money, and which weekends I will be home smoking some meat in the backyard, which by the way is my other passion, separate from finances. Now, in the same meeting, we get very specific with our goals. And let's say we're planning a big trip to Europe in 2026. We write down estimated costs for flights, hotels, and all these other accommodations. Then we'll look at the calendar and pinpoint the exact date we plan to make those purchases. If we need to set aside $2,000 in our travel fund in 6 months, we know we have to save at least $167 every 2 weeks to hit that goal. And here's a more ambitious one. If we want to save, let's say $50,000 to put a pool in the backyard in the year 2028, we write down that we need to save $500 once a week. And this simple act turns a dream into a concrete, achievable goal. Now, my wife and I both also have what we call FU money every single month, which is money we can spend on whatever we want, no questions asked. And that keeps us from feeling restricted. But here's the rule. If there's anything either of us wants to purchase that costs $100 or more that's outside of the FU money, we always discuss it beforehand. And we don't ask for permission like you always hear some other married couples say. We always have a discussion instead. Now, the next one might sound simple, but it is the hardest thing to do. And especially when the market decides to take you on a roller coaster ride. The third habit is to stick with the plan. And even when markets look unfriendly. And if you need a reminder of why that matters, just think back for a second. You're a smart bunch and you have been around the block. So you remember the market turmoil of 2008 and 2009, right? That financial crisis had everyone running for the hills, converting their investments into cash, terrified they would lose everything. But a study by Fidelity on 1.5 million workplace savers found that those who stayed invested in the stock market through that dark time from 2008 and 2009 were far better off than those who panicked and fled. In the decade that followed the crisis, the people who stayed put saw their account balances grew by 147%, which is twice the return of those who sold out. And fast forward to the 2022 bear market. That was tough, wasn't it? Inflation was raging, the Federal Reserve was hiking interest rates like crazy, and the stock market was getting hammered. My portfolio took a substantial hit, and it was rough seeing those balances drop, and everybody was talking about a recession, and the fear was palpable. And I have friends and followers selling their stocks because they were convinced the sky was falling. But what did I do? I continued to invest. I followed my plan, and I kept those automated contributions running like clockwork because I knew what I was doing was called dollar cost averaging. And I was buying the same number of shares even as prices dropped. So my regular contribution bought more shares. And when you feel anxious and want to bail, keep in mind that it's a normal human response to volatility. And trust me, I've had that feelings in the past. And that feelings is exactly why having a steady long-term strategy matters in the first place. In fact, the best investors maintain an allocation to stocks they can live with in good times and in bad. If you cannot stomach the dips, or you can't go to sleep thinking at how aggressive your stocks are, maybe you need a less volatile mix. But the point is, you have to be able to stick with a long-term investment mix that is designed to meet your goals. Now, once you've got that mindset locked in, that's when you can start accelerating your progress instead of just protecting it. That brings us to my next habit that truly speeds up everything: diversifying income streams. And this FIRE journey is all about cash flow, and having multiple income streams of money coming in is like having safety nets under your financial tightrope. So why is this important? Because if one stream dries up, say you lose your main job, the others are still running, keeping you on track. It's a risk management move, and it accelerates your timeline because more money is pouring into your investments every single month. And take my situation, for example. I created this business, Fireside Chat, for a reason, right? I have business income from my Fireside Chat business. I have royalties from these very YouTube videos that you're watching. And I have pension income from doing 20 years in the Air Force. And eventually, I'll be drawing income from my taxable brokerage account when I retire early, 401k at 55, Roth IRA, at any time, and I'll explain that, and the HSA at any time. The more income streams you have, the more you can feed your investment machine. And it's that simple. And the faster that investment machine grows, the sooner you're gonna hit fire. And speaking of leveling up your strategy, paying attention to taxes is what separates the amateurs from the pros. As you already know by now, taxes are often the single biggest expense in your entire lifetime, and which is why managing them smartly is absolutely non-negotiable. And I mean, we work too hard to just hand over a massive chunk of our wealth, right? It just makes sense to plan around it. And for me, part of that planning starts with where I live. And I'm fortunate to be in Nevada, which is a huge advantage right out of the gate. And my personal goal every single year is to get $0 in tax return and $0 in taxes owed. Now, why is that? Because a huge tax refund means you gave the government an interest-free loan all year. And owing taxes means you did not pay enough throughout the year. And I aim for that sweet spot of, perfection. I'm a perfectionist. And to do that, I make quarterly tax payments to ensure I satisfy the IRS requirements and don't get hit with any underpayment penalties. Now, I have mentioned in a previous video that I am 100% all in on Roth contributions for my retirement accounts, and that's a Roth 401k and a Roth IRA. My belief is that my taxable income will be significantly higher during my retirement years than it is now. So think about it. A pension, Social Security, rental income, plus all the income from my brokerage accounts. If I'm sitting in the 32% tax bracket or higher during retirement, I would rather pay the tax now at a lower rate. But if my income were to significantly go up right now and push me into that 32% bracket today, I would need to stop and reassess if going all in on Roth still makes the most sense. Maybe I will split them in half. We'll see. And speaking of taxes, don't forget the power of the taxable brokerage account. And when you sell investments that you have held for more than a year, you qualify for long-term capital gains tax rates. And the beauty of it is that for 2026, if your taxable income is low enough, you pay a 0% long-term capital gains tax rate. If your income is higher than that, you will likely pay 15%. And compare that to your regular income tax rate, which can be much higher. That's why you want to put your least tax efficient investments like REITs that pay regular interest tax at ordinary income rates into your tax deferred or tax-free accounts like your 401k, Roth IRA, and HSA, and keep the tax efficient stuff like index funds in your taxable brokerage account. Now, that's not in any form of personalized financial advice, but that's what I know. That's one of my habits. And the sixth habit I have is dedicating about 1 hour a day to learning something new. And I'm learning about different recipes to improve my skills on the grill and on my smoker. Maybe in your case, you want to improve your financial literacy. And you don't have to become a Wall Street expert, but you should understand the basics of what you are putting your money into. Here are some things you can easily learn in 1 hour that will make you a better investor. First, understand the differences between an index fund and an actively managed mutual fund. Simply put, an index fund tracks a market index like the S&P 500, and an actively managed fund has a manager who tries to pick stocks to beat the market. But here's a spoiler alert. The index funds usually win over the long run, and especially once you factor in fees. Next is knowing the differences between a mutual fund and an ETF. Take 1 hour a day to learn about those. A mutual fund is priced once at the end of the trading day, while an ETF trades like a stock throughout the day and has lower costs and is often more tax efficient. And once you understand how these investments work, the next critical question becomes obvious. Do you understand the fees? This is huge. That fee you pay is called the expense ratio, or maybe the administrative fees, and it's deducted from your returns, eating away at your compounding over time. Take the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF or the VOO or VOO, for example. Its expense ratio is a rock bottom at 0.03%. And that means for every $10,000 you have invested, you're only paying $3 a year in fees. Now compare that to an actively managed fund with an expense ratio of say 1%. That's $100 a year for the same $10,000. And those dollars add up to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars over a lifetime. Ultimately, understanding what you're investing in will make you a better, more confident, and less panic-prone investor. It allows you to stick with a plan because you understand the underlying mechanics of your money. And hitting that $1 million mark, or even beyond to your full FIRE number, even in these high cost times, is more attainable than you think. It's not about being an entrepreneur, becoming an investing wizard, or relying on wealthy relatives. The secret is that it's not a secret at all. It's mostly about dedication and commitment to your goals. As Ryan Victorin, a financial consultant at Fidelity, said, be patient. It can happen over time with a consistent, repeatable process. The people who reach their financial goals follow a straightforward path. They make a plan, they create a saving strategy, and they automate their savings. And after that, it's just a matter of executing the plan and continuing to refine it over the years. Hitting a $1 million net worth or $1 million in investments is not reserved for the lucky few. They're not lucky. They didn't get lucky. Plenty of everyday people do it. The real drivers are simple. Stay consistent and be patient. So tell me, out of these 6 habits, which one are you going to focus on improving in 2026? Or maybe you have something else in mind. Let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, Merry Christmas, everyone. And seriously, now go enjoy your holiday. And this has been another beast of a video, and I hope you got a lot out of it. Ho ho ho.